somebody who writes you lists that you tear up into tiny pieces and chuck in the recycling?
Do you know what? I live alone and I'm completely autonomous. I don't need any lists and I don't need any woman, however well-meaning, to provide them for me.
Is that because it's only you, so you've only got yourself to look after?
Yeah.
And the reality is that as things grow and there's more and more responsibilities, that actually there's more things we need reminding of?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm juggling lots of different tasks all the time, and I've just got a big family, and I, have lots of different responsibilities. And amazingly, I manage them all just quite fine. Thank you very much. So it's all good.
Anna May Mangan, are you more like Kate in the leaving of the list in the morning?
I call myself the chairman of the ironing board. I run the show. I mean, what's wrong with that? My husband doesn't want to. I mean, he doesn't mind doing anything as long as he doesn't have to think about it. So I leave him the list and he cracks on with it. I mean, I must admit, when he does stuff, I mean, there's virtually an award ceremony that has to take place. Put him on the podium, play the national anthem, he's hoovered.
But does he do it just off his own back, or does he do it because you've written on the list
he claims that
he
can't remember things. He claims that even though the same chores, I mean, there's not a new household chore every day, it's a dish, it's the same old routine. He can't remember it. But if I said to him, hey, it's a football match tonight, and then we're going to have takeaway curry, and then we're going to have an early night, he'd remember that, no trouble whatsoever. But if I said to him,
having an early night to do in the bin?
Well, it's kind of foreplay, isn't it, really?
I mean, it's an interesting point. Now, I mean, there's slightly different propositions. I'd like to think there certainly are in our household. A chance to be a fine thing. But Peter, there is
sort of drifted off a little bit.
Too much information.
But I think the interesting thing is that what Anna has worked out, and as Kate clearly has in their house, there is a system that works. And actually, if that system works, without that system, suddenly everything slowly unpicks and falls apart.
Yeah, I suppose your point, Peter, might be that actually there are other systems that work.
Absolutely, and what I would always say, there is actually a technical term for this phenomenon, and not a lot of people know it, and it's actually called womansplaining.
Oh. Well, you see, could that be the point, Anna? Because as a fellow list writer and control freak, is it because of a slight feeling that if it's not done my way, I think it's going to fall apart? Like, I think Billy's going to be upset, or this is going to happen, or that's going to happen, or the children... Whereas actually, what Derek might say is, do you know what? If I don't forget to do that, they'll be fine, and they'll cope with it, it's OK.
Men say that to dump the jobs on the women, because both... I mean, I'm assuming you like to get into a clean bed, I'm assuming that you like food in your fridge, I'm assuming that you wash your clothes. So if you do all of that, and you're in a partnership, it should be 50-50. And actually, I think things are changing now, because men are doing shared parental leave, and all sorts of things are shifting, so... Yeah.
But as a man, do you think there's a sense that men can be quite good at allowing control to be taken off them so they can relinquish responsibility a little bit and kind of go, do you know what, I'm quite happy for my partner to take control of that, and I'll just sit here and just tell me what you need me to do and when you need me to do it, and I'm happy to do it. And taking that back seat becomes easier and easier the more they like to take over.
Do you know what? I actually don't think it's about gender. I think it's about personality types across the board. And people who micromanage are often their own worst enemy, because when you micromanage somebody, you create a cycle.
I think you're right.
What happens is the subject becomes apathetic, and they say, well, I'm going to get it wrong. I'm just going to follow this to the letter. I'm not going to do anything. I'm paralysed by fear of getting it wrong. So I just become weak and useless. And so these people who micromanage are often their own worst enemies.
So Anna, do you think you've created a monster of your...
A lazy monster? No, definitely not. And it's so mundane doing this stuff. And I think there's a lot of men in Britain who should be called Ron, and in front of that should be later, because all they say is later on. Will you ask them to do anything?
What happens if you just don't do any of the stuff that you feel like you're doing too much of, and you're writing a list for your husband to do? But how long would it take for the whole household to just crumble into dust?
Well, how long? I mean, if you didn't empty the bin, how long would it take to fill up the kitchen floor?
How long would it take for your husband to realise the bin needs emptying without you telling him?
But then it doesn't take two people to worry about the same things in a marriage or a partnership. So I run the house and he cooperates fully, thank goodness.
But if the bin is overflowing, surely there's a point at which he realises that no one else is going to take the bin out unless he takes the bin out.
Yeah, but that's sort of one-upmanship. How far do you go? Dirty underwear and no food in the fridge, no milk for the coffee. It's dangerous, isn't it? That's a dangerous tactic, and it causes arguments, whereas a list reduces any need for an argument and even a discussion about it.
Who's it dangerous for? Is it dangerous for you because you'd feel uncomfortable, or is it dangerous because it gets unhealthy?
Well, it's dangerous because cockroaches have become...
Yeah, but do you really think it would get that bad?
Well, I don't know. I mean, if you're totally unengaged from housework and won't do it unless you're invited to do it.
But I just wonder
good.
whether he's got into the habit of just being told all the time.
Well, I write it down and he does it. I mean,
but whereas if you didn't write it down, maybe he might just do it.
Peter, have you got any friends that Anna's describing? Do you see that in some of your male friends that sort of got into relationships where they've let their partner take over?
Yeah, and I always tell them off because I think nobody should ever be under the thumb. But I also know...
Unless they've let themselves. This is what I wonder about, whether people, you know, and as you say, it may not be about gender, but whether you've just sort of allowed yourself to get into the position where you don't take initiative, you just wait to be told. Because that's what the head teacher's saying, is we're infantilising partners by telling them all the time, which doesn't allow them to develop their own responsibility. I suppose I'm sort of, you know, I mean, as people know, I have 3 boys and I'm raising them, and I'm also wondering about, you know, maybe I should do a little bit less and let them step up a little bit more. So when they see the bin overflowing, they realise they've got to take it out.
My husband was really sad. His father died young, and he's got a sister and a mother, and it was in the days before remote controls, and he would say, can someone turn the TV up for me? And someone would, his mother or his sister would turn the fire up. So it's a different, the generations now definitely are different.
Although I'm not so sure, because I know a few older gentlemen who are now single parent fathers, and they operate flawlessly without the presence of a woman. You know, they juggle children and work and their personal lives, and they absolutely ace it.
Daniela Jean says on Facebook, if they didn't act like children, we wouldn't feel the need to do that for them. I have to remind my husband of an appointment a week before, the day before, then he will still forget on the day.
He'll often say, can you write down to remind me, Derek will say. And I'm like, well, that means I've now got the pain and responsibility of reminding.
Just share responsibility.
Can you say no?
Sharon says...
Is this why I'm single?
I left a to-do list for my husband once. I couldn't understand when he got really cross and tore it up. I thought he totally overacted. We're divorced now because of his unreasonable behaviour. That bodes well, you see. There's the tail in there.
One more thing, that head teacher, her students are paying 18k a year, or the parents are, to be in that school, and I don't think they're probably going to be doing their own housework in the long or short term, to be quite honest.
Do you know what?
And is it her remit to be talking about this?
Give me 18 grand a year, I'll tell them to do that. Right?
Yeah, brilliant.
Go around and do it.
Great to see you both. Thanks very much indeed. Do you get in touch this morning? Who's in charge in your house?
Have you written a list this morning?
Yeah.
What was on it?
Guilty. Derek's sitting there thinking, I'm doing everything this morning. And she's banging on about me.
Derek's just looked at the list.
Well done, darling. Well
granny
done.
pasta.
Well done.
I've got to get the granny pasta sorted. Derek, get the granny pasta.
We will make.
Developing tonight, radio star Howard Stern offering an impassioned response to those calling for stricter gun laws in the wake of the atrocity in Orlando.
I'm so upset about Orlando and what went down, but I can't believe these people who come out afterwards and their answer to Orlando is to take away guns from the public. It's fucking mind-blowing to me. The terrorists all had AR-15s, they have Glocks, they have every kind of pistol.
They got missile launchers.
And so now let's use the analogy of sheep. Why would the sheep say, oh, we've got an answer to all the terrorism, all these bad wolves that are coming after us? We'll hand in all our guns. We're going to hand them in. I think the answer doesn't lie in taking any kind of ability of the sheep to protect themselves from the wolves.
Dana Lash is host of Dana on the Blaze TV. Namiki Konst is host of The Filter on Sirius XM. So let me start with you, Namiki. That's the thing, let me just put up this cartoon, which sort of says what Stern was trying to say, these 3 cartoons. This is the point people have been making all along. Can't you read? This is a gun-free zone. The guy is saying to the terrorist, dang, now what do we do? The 2 terrorists say as they see the gun-free zone. The point is, who's going to be respectful of the gun-free zone laws other than the law-abiding citizens?
There's been tremendous research behind this. The FBI famously published a report on this, and it stated that 3%, in only 3% of the cases where the good guy with a gun goes after an active shooter, they actually hit that guy. And it's usually somebody who has tremendous background and training in active shooter
shootings. But you know the response to that. If you were in that bathroom that night and that shooter was in there with his guns, you would have preferred to have been armed.
So generally what happens is it's more often than not that somebody who attacks the shooter physically with an object, something large, actually gets it. And that's because of stress. You know, your eyes and you're under stress. Humans are incapable of hitting a target. They're more likely to hit somebody else. And that's the FBI's own research. I mean, that's their study.
Yeah, I have a different conclusion based on the super expensive report that Barack Obama commissioned in 2013 that talked about defensive gun use. And in fact, the CDC determined that concealed carry and firearms, it's a great deterrent to crime. I tell you what, I want to have a fighting chance because criminals don't pay attention to gun-free zones. And Megan, Howard Stern, it's almost like I just became best friends with Howard Stern right there. It's like a stepbrothers thing.
I think he read your book.
He's so right.
So one more thing to
Mickey,
note
the
about
thing
that.
is, like, okay, so the studies are great, but like then you're kind of looking at Dana and saying, you know, our studies trump your needs and your belief about what's best for yourself. Give us your gun.
Well, it's not about giving us your gun. It's about expanding background checks. You know. No, Dana, it's not. No one's saying.
Yes, it is. You're talking about banning the AR-15 by calling it a weapon of war and conflating it with an M16 or an M4. No, it's not. Because
Dana, hang on. Give me a second, Dana.
We're short on time tonight, but Dana, why does the AR-15 and guns like that? Why do those need to be out there?
Yeah.
Well, the AR-15 it's a 22. I mean, if you're going to actually do, in fact, if I was actually going to go after a bad guy in my house, I'm not going to grab my AR-15. I'm going to grab my shotgun, or I'm going to grab my Glock. I'm going to grab something a little bit more serious.
So why have
Here's
them?
the
They're
thing.
killing machines.
Women, this is a war on women because the AR-15 is the most popular rifle with women. You're talking about disarming women, and you're talking about misidentifying
Dana, very simple.
And acting like it's a
Dana,
because you're just going to spit some more blue.
I gotta go because
Dana,
I'm out of
one
time.
thing.
They're so good. I apologize to the
I'm
audience.
so upset
Short on
about
time.
Orlando and what went down, but I can't believe these people come out afterwards and their answer to Orlando is to take away guns from the public. It's mind-blowing to me. The terrorists all had AR-15s. They have Glocks. They have every kind of pistol.
They got missile launchers.
They got missile launchers. And so let's use the analogy of sheep. Why would the sheep say, oh, we've got an answer to all the terrorism, all these bad wolves that are coming after us? We'll hand in all our guns. We're going to hand them in. I think the answer doesn't lie in taking any kind of ability of the sheep to protect themselves from the wolves.
Dana Lash is host of Dana on the Blaze.